Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's ACY Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper, and tonight's webinar is Forex Trading Live Market Analysis. Happy New Year to everybody. Just to give you a heads up what's coming up for me this week. Tomorrow I've got a review of the recent Forex trading patterns, so last month's trading action, what kind of patterns we're setting up that you could learn from reviewing last month. That will be the topic of tomorrow. And then getting into 8 p.m. on Thursday, we have more live Forex market review, so more analysis. So that's what's coming up from me. Webinars for me start at 8 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. All right, before we get into it, if you can read through the disclaimer. For those on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see the chat, but you're more than welcome to join us. You just use the link that I've given, or you can just watch on there, but I can't see if you're putting in any conversation. Azu, hello to you. Happy New Year back to you as well. So everybody, Happy New Year. Hopefully you had a good Christmas season, safe season. I'm on the Gold Coast, so I don't know whether you know the Gold Coast, but if you're in Australia, you'll know the Gold Coast. We've had major floods, but I was fortunate. Lots of people lost their electricity, internet, phones, but I managed not to lose anything. All right. So I'll just give you a few more seconds to read through the disclaimer before we move along. All right, so it's the start of the new year, and market will be a little bit quiet as we get into the first trading day of the year. But that being said, we'll have a look and see what's going on. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor here at ACY Securities. I'm a full-time trader, been trading for more than 15 years, mentoring for more than 10. If you want to contact me, then my email is there, duncan.cooper@acy.com. Through the week, you can follow me at the website, acy.com, go to the Market News tab, or our YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia. And if you want to connect with me personally, just head to my Linktree page and you'll find all my links there. So if you want to jot anything down, I'll just give you a moment or two to write something down. And if you'd like to get access to my chart layouts and templates, then simply contact Nathan.bray at the office. So his email is there at the bottom, nathan.bray@acy.com. Just send him an email if you want to get my chart layouts and templates, the ones I'm using when I'm doing the webinars. All right, let's get into, first of all, the news for the first week in the new year. It's going to be a rather quiet week. There's a few news items coming out. So at the moment, there's a lot of nations still on holiday. And we have had some China cakes and manufacturing PMI news coming out, slightly more positive than expected. But next major news announcement will be on Thursday in the morning for the US ISM manufacturing PMI. These times are my time, Queensland time. Job openings. And then in the early morning at 5, FMC meeting minutes. That probably won't reflect too different to what that got said at the last meeting in the press conference, but the meeting minutes will be released. And then really into Friday evening, we have the US job figures. So that's the first big one of the new year, okay? So just head over to Forex Factory and just review what's coming out. As well, in the morning of Saturday, we've got the ISM service PMI data coming out as well. All right, so nothing much to worry about until 1 o'clock in the morning, my time, Thursday, when the US releases start to happen. So things may be relatively quiet before then. Could be relatively range bound. So let's get into the charts. We'll start with dollar index. Now, interestingly, as we got into the end of the year, this is actually the whole range of last year, low to high. We go to the monthly chart. And we pulled back. We actually pulled back opposite this support. I should really put a line in there, which was at 170 and an eighth. 70 and an eighth. Don't know if that's an eighth. What is it? It's a thousandth, I think. There we go. And then I just went and moved it. All right, so we could be forming a head and shoulder pattern down here. This is a very interesting level now that the market needs to watch, 100.708. Weekly charts come down and rejected last week. And of course, we're closing above the 79% retracement. So the question would be, get my drawing tool to work. Are we getting long-term support down here for maybe a further move up this way through the course of the new year? So this is going to be a clear area to watch. We're seeing a kind of inverse thing happening on the euro dollar. And maybe some of the other pairs, maybe they've rushed up very close to topping out areas. So is this bottoming down here at this area of support? All right, so we'll have to wait and see. But looking a little bit suspicious that that might be what's going on. So we don't have a higher bottom, higher top or anything coming in down here from the day chart, but we do have a reversal candle and a 3-day reversal. So, you know, we may get some form of retest come down. And if we can't fall through below this low, we may be putting in a bottom in here over the next couple of weeks. We'll just have to start to monitor. Is it bottoming down here at that major kind of area of support and 79% of last year's range? All right, S&P 500 is up very close to the high, all-time high. Go to the monthly charts. Just a little bit short. Now, it could stop and stall before then. It's getting a little bit wicky on these weekly candles. Day chart at the moment still in an uptrend, so we don't have, you know, if we're going to see a reversal, we don't have a real indication of a lower bottom forming first of all and then a lower top. And we could just move through there. It's just a very poor area to be a buyer at the moment because you're very close to the all-time high. So be very aware that you're at very high levels. You know, if you can get a very healthy dip within the current day chart range, but the trend doesn't change, then maybe you could look for a dip to see whether or not this is going to push on and through the top. But normally when I get so high up, very close to a significant top, I'm usually waiting for some form of signal that a reversal is going to come into play. And I don't normally buy in an area so close to major resistance. All right, euro dollar. Now, I'm pretty sure I said in the last week I was on in December that this was an area to watch. And we could come up and push into that area. So of last year's, well, it's not last year's whole range, but this is the last major move down. We retraced up to the 79% level. Traded through a little bit, but a very good reversal. And we traded back down at the moment to this area of support. Now this could just hold its trend at the moment, depending on your philosophy. Do you think we've been retracing up to form a lower top? So on the monthly chart, for example, all right, I'm going to need to get rid of some of these fibs. So on the monthly chart, are we coming up to form a lower top to this area of resistance to continue to maybe then move down, or are we continuing up and through? What's your bias? At the moment, all I can say is we're holding at this high at the end of the year. So that's my focal point at the moment, is the 79% level overlapping with this high. If we can retest that level, you see last week we had a rejection. So even though the trend might not change, we could have 1 or 2 weeks pullback before we come back down to the levels where the buyers want to situate themselves before moving up and through. So we may well see some reversal. Is it going to be a long-term reversal or a short-term reversal? We'll have to wait and see and just monitor things. So we could be getting support here. So as I say, which side of the market you're on. Today, you have the opportunity down close to 110, 110.12 here to, I might actually use this high because it's the more recent one, 110.17 now. Much of a muchness, but that's the more recent high that we're getting support at. And you can see 2 4-hour candles there hitting and rejecting. So we may well see at least some form of bounce within this maybe 4-hour range. 62% level overlaps with this little area of 4-hour resistance at 110.55 to the 15. So selling off nicely last week. I'd be inclined to try and trade down with that sell-off we saw last week. I'd actually much prefer, whilst this is the 4-hour range, not probably a very large range, it's only 65 pips or so. I would much prefer to look at that whole rejection from up that high there as a range to look at. And the 62 level overlaps with that monthly resistance at 110.95. So for me at the moment, the market's going to be relatively range bound or slow going until we get a US news announcement, and we're what? Like we're only 60 pips away from this area. So this would be a great area to watch over the coming couple of trading days. Do we come up to retest monthly resistance up there at 110.95, the 111 area? Okay, pretty sure I mentioned that in my last webinar to watch that area for potential failure when I was talking about starting to do some work on your charts over Christmas and looking at significant levels. I'm pretty sure I said watch that level. So if you sold at that level last week with a 100 pip stop, well, it would have obviously traded through, but it wouldn't have got stopped out and you would be in profit now. All right, so I'm just going to be monitoring up here at the 110.95 level. In the short term, seeing 2 4-hour rejections down here, then if you can see your signal to buy, then maybe you want to be trading up towards that area. So at the moment, it's a little bit range bound down here, but if you're starting to get a trend line break, that could be your signal to trade up towards that resistance area up here at the top. Euro yen, rather consolidatory. Let's just drop this to the weekly chart. All my lines of either weekly lines or monthly lines of support or resistance. So we've got weekly resistance here that we're below, and any volatility has been getting us up to the next level. It's been rather consolidatory. I've been waiting to see if we can get up to the 79% level, but that looks like it's way too far away for this pair at the moment. So it would be nice. You can see where over the last week or two, anything at 158.03, this previously weekly higher point over here, that's where the market's getting capped back to the downside. And from a support point of view, we're getting support from this low or just underneath. So really those are the two levels to watch, I think, as we're heading into the new year. That's where the outskirts are. And we're pretty much in the center of those two outskirts. So I would just be watching 158.03 as we're heading into the new year for resistance and support at 154.42. Other than that, often first 1 or 2 weeks in the new year we're range bound. So look, I'm always looking to the outskirts until we can start to see a trend kicking in. So some areas at the moment we're watching are just up here. And support down here. All right. Now euro pound, as the rally started a couple of weeks ago, I said, I've got it colored in from last year. Watch it, price moving back up. So what we've been seeing is on the weekly chart, we broke to a lower bottom. We're maybe coming up to put in a lower top at weekly and monthly resistance. Monthly resistance is 87.21 and weekly at 87.06, and we came up to 87.14. Nice rejection last week. It's already had 2 days sell-off. So I would be dropping to the 4-hour chart and looking at this rejection. Looking for this to come up to ideally the 79% level of that range. There's some 4-hour tops to the left. Can that come up and put in a lower top there or an equal top to that 4-hour top? But it'll be a lower top in the day chart. First day back and I can't use the right tool. But can we come up and put in a lower top on the day chart to then be moving back down the range in line with the weekly trend, which is down? So coming up to form maybe a lower top on the weekly. Is that what's happening after last week's rejection? So I'll be looking for a rally, failure, pound dollar. So this is actually in the monthly uptrend, but with the US dollar maybe having a 79% retracement, just worth looking at the higher levels of things. This major range was at the 62 level. So there is the question that maybe all the upward move last year is simply with the obviously big move down. Is that corrective? Trading into the 62 to 79% area, and are we going maybe down this way long term? Are we failing in this area on the bigger picture? If that US dollar does get support at 79% retracement, this could well turn over to a lower top here on the pound. We'll have to wait and see. On the weekly chart, this range that we've been moving back up, the sell-off that we had in the mid to the, what was it, second and third quarter, or the third and fourth quarter of the year, 62% area of that range been very wicky above the 62% level. And today chart, it's just holding its uptrend just. It's maybe just holding the trend a little bit better than the euro dollar. Just holding above this top today. But had a very nice rejection on Thursday. So at the moment, it is in a day chart uptrend. It's just a question of we're in the 62 to 79% area of this range. And if you understand fibs, that's the area where we could top out. So not necessarily an area that I want to get long in. But I'm not really seeing anything that I like today anyway for maybe getting short. Dropping down to the 4-hour chart. So pound dollar, euro dollar, all kind of a little bit rejected Thursday, Friday on the weekly candle. So I did the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, but we haven't got to those charts yet. So there's a potential rejection on these pairs to the US dollar. So I'm just watching the high end of the range at the moment on a lot of these pairs to the US dollar. What's going to happen if we come back up and retest the area where we rejected down from last week? And this high over here, which is a day chart high. So around about 79% levels at 128.00. That's at 127.94. So it's clearly struggling at 128 at the moment. So I'll just be interested to see what happened there. Had quite a nice imbalance. Drop to the 15-minute chart. There's an imbalance of squashing it in so we can see all the price action. There's an imbalance in here, which we haven't got up to yet. So, coming up into this area up here, around about the 128 would be the area to watch this week. If we can continue the reversal down. We're actually stuck getting support down here at 127 at the moment through the Christmas period. So 127 is support. 128 is where the sellers have been starting to take control. So we're kind of in the middle of, we're almost at 127.50. So we're kind of in the middle. So I don't like trading in the middle. So I would look to the either side of the outskirts would be great. more focusing on the downside here with last week's rejection. So we'll just have to wait and see which side of the market price wants to reach. All right. Now, one pair that's looking a bit more bullish is the pound yen. 79% of this range, which is this monthly uptrend, pulling back. All right. 4 weeks have been sitting in this low area of the range. We actually are holding below 180.41, which is actually a monthly area of support or resistance. It's been resistance, became support. We're actually maybe now holding as resistance. It's a high from back in time. All right, so it's a bit messy here. It's a bit very consolidatory. I can clearly see, and this is just a game of patience, is if you want to be buying this pair to hold with a monthly uptrend, these lows here, based on the day chart, is where support is. So anywhere from 178.627 down to 178.11, that's quite clear where support's coming in. All right, so if it was to get down there again over the next, week or two, that would be a clear area to watch to see if it's going to break below or simply further retest and fail to move back up. So could be bottoming out down here. We'll have to wait and see. But I don't want to be buying into this area of what could be resistance. So it's just not in a great spot. It is maybe showing you a little bit of a 4-hour uptrend starting to form. So it would be nice if this could pop up and then, have a look for a fib retracement back to 62.79%. All right. So from a buy perspective, it would be great if it could have a nice run up and then pull back and you look to buy the next higher bottom coming in. All right, so looks a little bit supportive down in the area that we're in. A bit range bound though still. So, watch your setup to buy. I don't know if it's an area where I want to be selling at the moment, even though we're kind of holding against that little area of resistance there at the moment at 180.41, because it is an area of support from the 79% fib down to the 100 level. So in here, it's where the buyers are going to start to be wanting to try to get in. You can see the rejection here on the 4-hour, another rejection candle here. So game of patience would be down here waiting to see if you can quite clearly see rejections. Last month's lows down here. We might see a spike at last month's low and hold, and then that would be a good opportunity to look for a reversal from that level, 178.34. Okay. All right, getting to the Aussie yen. Now, I didn't trade last week, but I can quite clearly see that it failed at the level I was discussing last year, the 79% retracement of this decline. And I've been discussing, let me get rid of the fibs for a moment. Been discussing last month, getting rid of my lines as well. All right, so I've been discussing as to whether this is going to be a monthly double top. So we did sell down last month. Can we maybe, if we're failing up here, then the most immediate target, if we're getting a big pattern forming, would be down to support. Can that level of support break if we start to head down toward that way? Now, so is this a double top? Is it going to lead to maybe there's the range? Could we have a double top price rejection? That's 73.67. It's a long way away, and we need to see a breakdown in price. But we could be forming here on the weekly chart a lower top now, which is happening all just underneath this weekly high over here. So I might just drag that out of the way at the moment. I don't need that on there at the moment. One important range that I was discussing last month was this range. Would we come up to the 79% level where you had two opportunities to trade there last month? And the next thing would be to look for a smaller 79%, which is of last week's range. Let me just drag that over. So we had a little double top at the 79% level, just short of that weekly high. And then the range, that's last week's high, to a fresh low this week's just come in. Is really double top to the largest 79%. It would be nice to see this now come up to this 79%, 97.20. So 9700 up to 97.20 would be the area that I will watch on this pair at the moment to come up. Maybe then form a lower top on the day chart. All right. That's what I'm watching now on the Aussie yen, Aussie dollar. I'm actually watching the 68.51 level here. This is my 50-minute chart, but just take it through the time frames. We have traded above the 6,800 level. And this fib that I've got drawn is across the whole of last year's range. So we're at the 62% level of last year's trading range at the moment. On the monthly chart, we could be putting in a lower top here. If it doesn't want to trade any further up, we may well put a lower top in here to hold the monthly downtrend. Weekly trend has turned up in the short term. We're back up to, you can see the rejection weekly candle last week. We're back up to the selling levels of last year. It is just holding above the 68.05 to 68.18 area, just. But it quite clearly started to find some selling pressure ahead of this double top of last year. So we could actually form, this has been fractionally short there, but I would be more than happy to consider this to maybe be, if it starts to hold where it is, a double top on a larger scale here for a further move down this year. Obviously, what happens up in this area. So we had a rejection from up here last week, Thursday, Friday. I'm actually watching 79% of the rejection down. Last week's range here, I'm watching the 79% up at 68.50. Can it come up to 68.50 and fail? And today's projected high pretty much comes in an area, so I'm actually watching this area here, 68.50, 51. If we can get up there. At the moment, I was hopeful when we were up here that it may get up there, but at the moment it's not quite getting there, but it could happen over the next 24 hours. So yeah, I'm bullish the dollar index because of just where it's sitting at. And let's not forget, whilst we've had this sell-off November, December, this is back to the dollar index. The monthly chart here is higher top. Are we putting in a higher bottom here to form an inverse head and shoulder pattern here? So whilst if we can't break below the low that got formed in December, we're probably heading back up. So that would mean then pairs would start to head back down. So this is a 79% on the dollar index, possible head and shoulders. And the euro dollar, if we just head back to that a moment, to the weekly chart, this could be a left shoulder head, right shoulder on the weekly chart for the euro dollar. So with the rejections occurring last week, maybe we are going to see some downtime. So that's my thought process. But it all depends, what starts to happen. So I'm not going to be trading 4 pairs to the US dollar, trying to short 4 pairs, but I am at the moment watching the Aussie dollar for a potential short up here at the 68.50 level. because we are back up to, on the day chart here, selling levels from back in July. So we'll, we could, obviously head up to 68.99, 6,900, test the high up here. So I'm just watching to see what happens at 68.50 at the moment. All right, New Zealand yen. Bit similar to the Aussie yen. This is my daily chart. Create a little bit of a double top up here, holding at this area. Had this big sell-off when the dollar yen started to move down. Came back up to just beyond the 62 level of that range, sell off through November into December. And we've moved from a minor double top to a lower bottom here. So I'll be monitoring at the moment. The range of last week into this new week's low. Like I was just saying on the Aussie yen, can we come up 79% level of this small range, lines up with the 62 level of this larger range. So that would be an overlap. So around about 90.04, 90.100 level, I'll be watching it up there. So we've, both the Aussie yen and the New Zealand yen have done the same thing. They've created a double top, sold down last week. Are we going to come up to map out something like that? So we're obviously at the profit taking phase of the decline here. Are we going to come up to a rally through the week to form a lower top, a lower area here to move down? That's what I'm looking at. All right, New Zealand dollar. Similar to the Aussie, it's come back up to the weekly high areas and as well on the monthly charts, short of these monthly tops. Still lower top, lower bottom. Yes, it's range bound. We're still all the way back up, but it's just back up to the sell levels. 4 months, 2 months here and another month there, back in July, June, May, April, up here. So it's very high prices of the middle of last year. So we've obviously rejected, back to the weekly chart, rejection. More than half the candle rejected. So I think we could get back up into the high area of last week. That would be the thing to watch. Can we get back up into the high area of last week? So again, just looking back up at the high areas on these pairs of the US dollar. With the rejection occurring last Thursday, Friday, are we going to come up and retest the high areas of last week? There's a couple of 4-hour tops up here. 1, 2. So up at 63.52-ish area, 79% fib there. I would be looking to see what price does up there. Because for whatever reason, Thursday, Friday, we started to sell off. Couldn't hold the gains of the week. And, well, it's not just for whatever reason. We're back up to the selling levels on the monthly, within the monthly range. All right, so we're naturally seeing selling pressure at the high end of the range. All right, dollar Canadian is really the inverse. If you go to the monthly chart, looking similar to the dollar index, that could be left shoulder, inverse head, right shoulder forming over here. We have moved down from just a lower top, from just a higher top. So this could form a higher bottom here. Weekly chart, little rejection, spinning top, inverted. It's just not inverted, sorry. It's a kind of a hammer, small spinning top. The last 2 weeks have had wicks on the candle. So we're just below the 79. But if we start to close on the day chart perspective above 132.64, the 79% fib level, 132.62, the level of support here that we're just underneath. If we start getting back above there, we've had a 3-day reversal at the moment, but we're not back above. But if we close back above there, we're probably, you know, there's a number of imbalances here, notably this one here. We could be coming back up the range and we could be forming a right shoulder here. So yeah, you can be watching the day chart for a higher bottom. Notably, this is pulled back all the way to this kind of imbalance area here, where this consolidation started, in imbalance to the upside, and come all the way back down. This is where the last move started. So we come back all the way back to where the last move started to go all the way up to here. So this is where, you know, the market may go sideways, starts to accumulate like it did over here, to then break higher. So I will just be watching here to see if it starts to show its hand. Quite clearly, there's 3 candles here. Then at 131.77 or fractionally higher, that's where the buyers are coming in. All right. 3 days there, 131.70-ish, 131.77. So if we get back down to 131.77, that would be a very good level to watch for reversal back up, because it's already proved to you for 3 days it can't move below there. All right, so it's right in the middle of this consolidation over there to the left. So that's what I'll be watching at the moment. Can we come back down to 131.77, or can we see this start to commit back above weekly resistance, or it's actually monthly? Well, it's old monthly support, because we're below at the moment, we have to call it monthly resistance. Maybe it's turned its polarity, but for a strong move back to the upside, we need to move above 132.62. And can we see that on a pullback to be support? So that's what I would start to monitor on the dollar Canadian. Dollar franc, this is the monthly chart. Still very weak. It's getting below at the moment some historical levels, where it's been long-term range bound, but we are below historical support levels at the moment. Notably, the last one here at 85.52. And weekly trend is down. It's a bit overextended on the weekly though. And the daily trend is still down. So this pair is showing you a little bit of a different picture. It's clearly put in a new low for the year at the end of the year. So it may well only have the legs to come back up to 85.52. So that would be the level to watch to be resistance at the moment, trade down from. All right. But watch what the dollar index is doing, because if that starts to have a significant move up from its 79% level, I don't know whether you want to be looking for a short then on this pair, because this will probably move back up the range. So don't just trade your pairs in isolation of not looking at what everything else is doing. But this has been the, you know, the weakest in terms of the US dollar. Franc's been clearly gaining very strongly against the US dollar there. Pretty much almost closing on the low of the year. Dollar yen. All right, all my levels. I can get rid of a few levels at the moment, these high levels. Not had a weekly rally yet. Since we broke the weekly trend to down, this hasn't been able to have any rally of significance. At the moment, there was a rally this week, but it got held in this weekly resistance area. So that is the area to watch for, a nice area of resistance. And, you know, we've been moving down. I'm always concerned we've been moving down for so long. Been moving down close to 2 months. Okay. Is that it may be getting a bit low. I have been watching this pair. I've been monitoring this whole range for some kind of, back to the weekly chart, some kind of long-term rally. Back up maybe to form a lower top on the weekly chart. We haven't had that. We haven't had that price action yet. So I'm a little bit cautious to be a seller so low down when maybe we need to rally, put in a lower top on the weekly scale. So I'm just monitoring this pair for something like that to occur. Could just come up to where it failed. We had an inside week here holding at resistance. So this may just have 1 or 2 weeks up to that area. And that could then form a double top here. That's the high that week, that intra week or inside week. Hold there to then move down. So I'm just monitoring really from the weekly perspective, where can we rally back to and form a lower top? Because we've had 2, 4, 6, 7 weeks down. So we're getting a bit long in the tooth there to not see a corrective rally of some form. So I'm just monitoring. Getting into gold. Can it move through this area of monthly resistance? This is the weekly chart, but there's 3 tops here, 3 monthly tops between 2070 and 2079. We're trading at 2079 today, or fraction short. So we're trading, in there. We're putting in a higher bottom here, having it there. This is maybe forming another higher bottom. So it's just not the perfect spot to be a buyer because you're buying straight into the top of those monthly highs, which could be resistance. Even though it's forming a higher bottom here, maybe it could fail there today and reject, and we could be back below these 2 lines of resistance. So the area of 2070 to 2079 is monthly resistance historically. So it's not what you're going to be buying. Definitely an area to watch for reversal because of the historical nature of its being resistance. Not seeing any reversal there at the moment. But you can watch the 4-hour chart here. We're obviously testing 120.79 today. So the high is at 127.32, that resistance level. And today we've been up to 120.78.92. So we've been maybe a fraction above that resistance level, just pretty much at it. Now, if we just close below 2070 once more on the 4-hour chart, then that might be the first sign that we're reversing today and holding at that level. But with the weekly trend being up, we could be seeing a move through this area this year. So I think, obviously last week we rejected the area. If we once more reject this week, then that will probably be tipping the scale to the downside. But we're just going to have to wait and see maybe the next couple of days. What is it doing at this major resistance level over the next couple of days? Does it break or does it reverse? All right, so, you could watch the 15-minute chart. Can you see a reversal here? Can you see your signal to sell? It's not being able to get up. See this little area on the 15-minute chart where it false broke above the high? So it came below, false broke, moved down. We're not quite getting back up to the same high level here. Just getting to, it's fractionally short of that 50-minute swing point top there too. So clear the sellers is watching here. So it depends how aggressive you want to be. You can be selling here, stop above. You're selling against monthly resistance. Historically, are we moving down? And we're just fractionally above 62. From a 50-minute perspective, if you get a nice close back below the 62, you could be selling here, stop above this high here, because that's the high that we can't get up to today. And then I will reversing back down from major resistance. All right, so that's my thoughts there. And we'll finish on looking at oil. As you always look at oil, so we'll look at that. Looks a bit similar to the dollar index on the monthly scale here. Are we inverse head and shoulders? It's quite clearly strong support down through here. So 70.25 is support. Last week was rather negative though. Day chart. But it would be nice if this could play nicely and show some form of, say, can it pull back to support? Got two 79% levels here, one on the larger scale, one on the small scale. 70.37 to 69.72. Would be nice if this could move back down to support 70.25 and then reject to show a bottom coming in. I think I discussed this in December that this was back to the consolidation area phase here. So it's very similar to what I was just saying on the dollar Canadian, which, on the dollar Canadian, I was saying we had some consolidation phase before moving higher. We're back to consolidation here. So we popped back up. Be great if it could get back down to 70.25 to be support. Whilst I'm drawing a fib range here, there is a very minor kind of, depending on which tops you're using, there's a little minor low here where we pull back to. So there is a slight sniff of, whilst I'm using the major highs on the smaller highs and lows, we could be in a slight downtrend here. So I would be much happier to see this come down to 70.25 and then reject. If you get a nice dirty chart rejection down there, then can you get to a lower time frame for an entry? All right. Of course, as well, we've got the geopolitical landscape in Israel affecting oil. So whether or not something new comes out from there as well. But I think if we get another retest of 70.25 and it holds, then that would be a solid signal that maybe we are holding down there and we could be getting, this could be getting ready to move back up for its next larger move. All right, so that's my thoughts on all that. I'm not seeing a clear signal, but my area to watch would definitely be down there at 70.25. All right, we can have a look at that again. All right, so the market, some of the pairs at the moment are a little bit range bound. I'm just looking to the outer ends of last week's rejection at the moment. Can price get up into those 79% levels and then play nicely? See the euro dollar gone to a fresh low. It's actually broken last week's low, so couldn't break that trend line, so it's not getting up. So euro dollar is looking a bit weak. Pound's looking like it may want to come back down to test 27. Got more chance of testing 27 today than testing 28 up at the top, the area that I'm watching. But you can see through Friday, rather range-bound price action. Seeing very similar kind of price action today at the moment, rather range-bound. Don't expect major trends kicking in until we get some volatility from news. The major news this week is really Friday. We do have the FMC meeting minutes coming out on Thursday morning, but we probably already know what's in there from the press conference of the last interest rate decision. So the big driver will be the job figures at the start of the year on Friday. So ahead of that, we could be range bound. So I'm just looking to the outskirts of the ranges at the moment. And, I'm not forecasting a bottom on the dollar index, but just technically, are we forming an inverse head and shoulder pattern down here at 170? All right. Now, if we close below that level, I would say, on the weekly scale, because we couldn't last week, well, maybe we're not. But at the moment, we did reject there last week, so we'll have to wait and see. If we break above last week's high, that's going to confirm a weekly rejection there. So then, we are probably trading back up the range. So that's what we need to monitor. All right, so that's my thoughts at the start of the new year. As you were saying, you're waiting for 69 on oil. Well, if we can get down there, have to wait and see. I mean, a very good level would be down here. If you want to try and look to buy it at a price point, quite clearly there at, what's that price point? 67.12.7 is quite clearly where support has been. So that would be a very low level to look to fish. All right. All right, everybody, that's my thoughts. I think I've got all the questions covered. So just a heads up, tomorrow I'm going to be reviewing what happened last month in December. We'll review the patterns that we're setting up last month. What can you learn from those? Other than that, we're just starting a new year. Hopefully you've set yourself some goals for the year, or at least been reviewing what you did last year, starting to ascertain what maybe you need to fix, work on. I've spent a couple of hours myself thinking about some things I want to work on. And, I'm always reviewing what I'm doing, even though I've been trading for more than 15 years. There's always room for improvement at whatever level you're at. And it's always a good start of the year. Fresh start after having a week away is just to review what you've been doing. And one of the things I'm definitely looking at, and I said this last month as I was finishing up, is like euro dollar. You can't go back in time, but I did say watch this area, is look at the major levels on the chart for reversals. Well, there was a major level on Wednesday, Thursday last week that we tagged. That could be the high. That could be the long-term high up there. So we may see a retest. So I'm definitely most definitely trying to keep myself at the major levels all year. All right, not majoring in the major levels rather than majoring in the minor levels. So already we've seen a failure at a major level there on the euro dollar. May see a retest. So if we retest, do we get a failure? All right. So I'm most definitely watching that level. And that's one of my goals for the year, is just to monitor the major levels. So like we've just been discussing on the dollar index, we have rejected last week a major level. So is it going to be a major turning point where you could hold a position for a month or two? All right. All right, I'll leave it at that. If you have the time, look forward to seeing you tomorrow, 8 p.m. Sydney time, for the review of last month's trading patterns. Other than that, happy new year to everybody. Hope it's going to be a good year for you all. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, everybody.